Hello, friends. I'm known as Uncle Duke, at least to the gamers with the little tin soldiers. My name is Duke Seifried. I'm 80. I'm not real healthy right now. I'm sort of a little bit of Jacques Cousteau. I have a little lifeline, but it hasn't gotten in the way of my being a major hobbyist. In the tin soldier business, I call it the grand obsession. The hobby of playing with, building, organizing, writing rules, and playing with little tin soldiers is one enjoyed by quite a few people of many different ages. Behind me is my Wild Wild West game, where people come for short game nets or last for longer ones. And it's the Wild West, wilder than it really was, of course. And you do whatever you think you could do. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons on the plains, if you will. In any event, friends, I started many, many years ago because I liked little tin soldiers, and I collected them, those that came from Europe and England. They were about 2.5 inches tall and were usually British soldiers. Well, I liked them, but I didn't like the fact that they weren't in action position. So I had to figure out how to make them. So I proceeded to learn how to make original figurines and then mold them. As time went on, this got more and more, and I wound up eventually with companies that manufactured these by the thousands and thousands. Of course, we had to then come up with making some paint to paint them with, scenics to play with them, and terrain to play upon. So this hobby encompasses lots of arts, crafts, imagination, history, and a great deal of imagination. For those of us who are so afflicted by this insidious disease, the grand obsession, we take care of all periods we possibly can, from the very earliest in history up through Star Trek and beyond. If you've never tried this, may I encourage you. The principal idea of it is we give a faction, a historical faction or a fantasy faction, and their opposition. And we devise rules, usually utilizing multiple faceted dice. We work out some parameters, and without getting technical on you, I will tell you that we have movement, we have melee, which is hand-to-hand combat, we have missilery, which is something over a distance, and then we have to set some objectives. Who wins the game? What's the reason for it? What's the purpose of it? I know what you're thinking. A lot of war has no real reason or purpose. I have to agree with that. It's much better with little tin soldiers because you set them all up after the game and nobody's crying. I have been the major ambassador of this in America. It's been a great privilege for me because some of the lines came together. I'm an entertainer, or have you guessed that? And I'm a public speaker. I play jazz guitar, write arrangements, play with a big band, play with a little group, give speeches. Lately, I've had to give a lot of memoriam speeches because some of my friends are passing among us, some of the stalwarts of our hobby. It's kind of a sad thing to do a memoriam, but we want to honor the people who have helped to make this a great hobby. Now, if you have any interest in the ancients, we're talking about Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans. If you have an interest in the horse and musket period, we have the American Civil War, the American Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars. Oh, this goes on and on and on. And then a little later, we have the colonial wars, British colonials and French colonials on the Sahara and over in Africa, and fighting with Zulus and fighting with Boers and fighting with everybody they possibly can. Well, I can't recommend the fighting, but playing it is a lot of fun. because, as I mentioned, you do pick them up after you're done, and nobody cries. Why is it becoming so popular? Well, for one thing, you can play a computer game and you use your fingers or your thumbs. In this, you use your whole hands, your whole mind. There's craft work, there's design work, there is mathematics, there is an opportunity to have an all-encompassing, very involved hobby where you make figurines, or at least paint them, build scenery, make terrain, do lots of things. And this hands-on thing really feels good. A lot of people who play computer games come to me and say, you know, I've played every computer game there is, but I have more fun playing your games where I move these soldiers around and I can actually see the hill, and I open the door and I go in the building. And somebody just said, I never realized I take the lid off or the roof off and you've got all the furnishings in it. There's a shotgun standing over in the corner that the guy can grab. Well, that's fun. That's interesting. Why is it growing? For one thing, it's being publicized. Your interview, other television interviews, shows, cons, spread this out. And here is an opportunity to do a hands-on hobby. I happen to like kids because I really am a kid. Why do you think I do this? In the 70s, there was transactional analysis. People were a certain proportion child, a certain proportion adult, a certain proportion parent. I was about 5% parent, maybe 25% adult, and all the rest child. Who has fun in the world? The people who have child in them. Child is not a bad thing. Child gives you the opportunity to experience new things, to enjoy things, to not be guilty. I will grant that Garrison Keillor tells us that the old Catholic Church and the Lutherans put a guilt trip on you. Well, I don't want to have a guilt trip. I want to try things. I want to do things. So the child approach is good. I encourage all young people. Who will have it after this gray hair goes? Well, it's white now. It's not even gray, it's white. What's that over there right there? What are you looking at? And guess who the good guy is? The sheriff is the kid. Billy the Kid is the bad guy, and it's his daddy. Does that answer your question? I have created 45 extravaganzas. What is an extravaganza? That's a reasonable question. It's at least a 6-foot by 12-foot layout with terrain, structures, figurines, rules, quite often sound effects, and even lighting. And I've done 45 of them. They're all over the world. I have my stuff in Australia, New Zealand, Bahrain, Milan, Italy, Rome, Italy, a couple places in France, in Monaco, 8 American states, England, Ireland. It's all over the world. You'll never get rid of me. Uncle Duke will live on for several hundred years, and my extravaganzas get more valuable. I'm 80. Wait till I clunk off. They get worth twice as much. So if you're fortunate enough to have invested in one, you just made yourself a lot of money. I have been able to set the bar. I am probably, pardon me, I don't mean to come on strong, but I probably do the best that anybody has ever done. You will have to ask other people if that's true. But I think I've set the bar, and everybody tries to match up to that. I'm a creative person, inventive, imaginative. I'm artistic. I'm a sculptor. How do I have all these things? Well, I've lived lots of past lives. That opens up another whole box of worms, doesn't it? I have a lot of talents that I didn't study for. Past lives, interesting. I love it. I I have had a foot in each boat. You think of me for historical stuff, I was the executive vice president of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm one of the creators of that genre as well. So I've been in all the boats. I don't see any difference between any tin soldier and any other one. We write the rules the same way. Our imaginations are the only thing that governs us. I love it. I like science fiction. I've had the great opportunity of meeting a number of writers who are quite competent at it. We have one here, Frank Chadwick, is a very major writer of science fiction. You should interview him, Frank Chadwick, and tell him Uncle Duke sent you. Someone just starting to get interested. Okay, the first thing to do is to come to one of these shows, wander around, meet people, play a little bit, look around, see what interests you, go home, pick up a few books at the library, check on my website, which is Uncle Duke, well, no, it's actually Duke Pix, DUKEPIX .smugmug, SMUGMUG.com. You can see hundreds of pictures of my work, and that'll give you a good start. See which one you like, and then call us. There are all kinds of people around who will help you. Any one of us will help you. And if you can't find anybody else, get a hold of Uncle Duke. Well, there was a great fear that computer gaming would obviate this particular pursuit. It seems to have helped it. So to answer you, on and upward. Charge! I invite any of you who have had the patience to watch this long tirade experience the fun and enjoyment of playing with little tin soldiers. These are toys. I call them toys. This is fun. I enjoy this so much. Here I am, still at 80, still a kid, still doing this, going to all kinds of shows all over the country. And I am getting worn out, but I still do it. So I invite you to get involved. That's my word. Get involved. And good gaming from Uncle Duke.